Hi everybody, it is Benjamin Crudwig, and today I am bringing you another episode of Seeds of Creativity. It is episode number 12. I have already filmed about 10 minutes of another video, but I had to stop because I just... Do you ever have the moment when you have something that's been nagging you in the back of your mind and you decide, I'm not going to listen to that, I'm going to do something else, and then that other thing just keeps bugging you, and so you get really distracted and you don't have the flow? Yeah, that's what happened to me. So the old topic is not going to happen this week. So I am going to be talking about something that keeps coming up and coming up and coming up these last few weeks, and it's time to talk about it. So first, I want to thank you so much for watching. If you are new here, welcome to the club. I am so happy to have you here. If you haven't yet already, please hit the subscription box below and also hit the bell icon to get notified every time that I upload. And then if you like this video, please hit the thumbs up. It really, really helps. So today's topic is less of a topic and more of a phrase and more of an ideology. And it's something that has been just coming back to me over and over and over again in various conversations I've had with people in my own life and just thinking about stuff. So the phrase, the ideology is don't force it. On the level, like the surface level, that's exactly what I mean. Don't force it. But it has been seeping into so many different aspects of my life that I thought, okay, let's talk about it in a video. And that's what happens, is you just, once your brain starts thinking about it, at least for me, as a creative person, once something has rooted its way in here, if I don't get it out, it's just gonna stay in there forever. So, don't force it. This, I think, can apply to so many different things in life, including art and creative and making. What I mean by this phrase, don't force it, is that I don't mean stop working hard. I don't mean don't strive to be better. I don't mean any of those things. What I mean is, even in that working hard, even when you are pushing yourself forward and kind of getting into the meat of stuff, or you are pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone, there's a certain point, and I think it's kind of a breaking point, where you start to force it. So it's important to not do that. When you have to check in with yourself and go, okay, why isn't this working? Why is this so difficult? What is preventing me from moving forward on this? And if it's you have to force it in order to move forward, then stop, rewind, and take stock of what's going on. This can be in relation to personal relationships, this can be in business relationships, this can be in your creative field, in your professional field, whatever it might be. What I was thinking about this is, one of them was, I've been doing a lot more streaming lately, and I have some friends who are streaming as well. And there's a certain point where sometimes you want to be the funny person, right? And you want to be really entertaining and really interesting and whatever, but I felt myself almost trying to force it and push it and trying extra hard to be funny. And it would come across as false. And I noticed some, in some other people that I watch online, the same kind of thing. You could tell when they were forcing the joke or when they were trying to force the point that they were making. And that's when things start to go south. You get agitated, you get irritable, you end up getting really fakey. And I'm always trying to be authentic. And when you see me in this situation, I was trying to say scenario and situation at the same time. Well, so when you get me on my stream or you get me on these pre-recorded videos, you're getting my authentic self. And funnily enough, when I was trying to film Seeds of Creativity episode 12 just before this, I realized I was forcing the topic and I couldn't get through it because I didn't really want to do that topic today. Something inside of me was like, "Nah, don't do that one." And I tried to do it anyway, and I started just forcing it, and it came across as so fake and so just bull. It wasn't good. I think this can happen in our art too. When we're working on a piece and we feel that we must keep working on that piece because God forbid we take a break from a piece and start something new or take a different perspective on something or just take a break. God forbid that we just take a break. We push forward, we push through, we're like, oh, I'm gonna do this. But then it starts to feel forced, right? I think probably many of you can relate to that feeling of like, oh, I'm forcing this to happen. This can happen to, I come from a marketing standpoint, and sometimes there are certain events that are happening in the world or trends that are going on that you want to coin in on and you really want to jump on the bandwagon. And so you end up trying to create content that works, that fits, but it's not really true to your own identity and your own content. So you end up trying to force it. I find my forced work, both in marketing, in art, in pretty much any aspect of my life, anything that I really force ends up being the worst stuff that I put out. And I'm always striving to be better. I am always trying to do better than I did before. But when I force it, it's just not as good. And it's not as authentic, it's not as true. So I've been trying to really meditate on this idea this week. And, it goes for personal relationships and professional relationships. So if you make a connection with somebody and they really want to work on a project with you, but by working on that project with them, you feel like you're sacrificing your own identity or your own power, your own point of view, but you think, oh, this is a good job, this is some solid money. There is a certain point where you're going to start forcing it, and I can almost guarantee that you and your client are going to be able to feel it. This happened recently to me, and I think I take some ownership of trying to force it because I thought I could do a really good job, and I could have, but I was trying to force a professional relationship that didn't fit in with my own personal core values. And that goes way back into Seeds of Creativity territory, talking about identity and core values. And when you start to sacrifice those, you kind of poison yourself a little bit, and you create this monster of just like bad vibes, to put it in a very kind of poor way. But yeah, it's just bad vibes when you end up going to that path of sacrificing what you think and feel in order to just force it and get through it. This can happen when you're talking like to family members or your loved ones and you decide to not express yourself, because you feel like you're afraid of what people are going to say or think about you. And so you force yourself, you force it to have a good time, and you force yourself into being in a situation that's just not good for you. Also, I'm sorry if there's a lot of noise. I know last time you couldn't hear it, but it's a very noisy day in Los Angeles today, so sorry. Anyways, it is that feeling of forcing that personal interaction when you feel like you shouldn't be there, or you're sacrificing your identity by being there and entering into that relationship and that family dynamic. Sometimes like you don't belong there at that moment, and you try to force it, and then you don't have a good time. Other people notice that you're not having a good time. When we think about this in a more logical frame of mind, more scientific, if you will, and less of a feelings thing, everything has a breaking point. Everything does. There are things that are stronger, things that are weaker, but at some point, everything does have a breaking point. And when you exert a certain amount of force on something, there's only so much that it can take before it breaks. And I think that goes in hand with our mental well-being, our spiritual well-being, and our physical well-being. So if you're a weightlifter and you're lifting weights that are way too heavy for you, it is possible that you can break yourself because you force it. You are trying to force that like personal record, and it's very, very dangerous to your physical health. Well, some of us try to push our minds past what we can really handle, and sometimes that means taking on too much on a job or personally, creatively. And our minds suffer from that. They reach their breaking point, and it can be very, very difficult to come back from that. It can feel it's harmful. You know, you end up burning yourself out and then maybe needing to take a longer break than you would have originally needed to do. And spiritually, if you end up pushing yourself to do something that you feel is not right, but you do it anyway, and you keep forcing your way because you think something better can happen from it, or it's advantageous, you can break parts of your soul, and you just feel dirty, you feel bad. And I think that's something that we need to be more conscious of as people is, what is our breaking point? Where is it that forcing it starts to exist? So say, here's the threshold of me being able to work hard and be ambitious and get something done and grow and such. But just beyond that, that's when I'm starting to force things. And I know that beyond that point, I'm going to break something. You know, whether it's legitimate, like physical breaking something, mental, spiritually, whatever it might be, there is a threshold. So we need to learn where that boundary is, where that line is before we cross it. And we can also learn how to recognize that we are coming up towards that threshold. So even before you get there, you can go, I know that my threshold is about here, and I feel like I am reaching that threshold. I'm going to take a little bit of time to think about my next steps and what I'm going to do next. It's very interesting because I used to be the person that would just plow through things no matter what, and more than once I injured myself, you know, either psychologically or physically. And I think especially when, oh man, I think I talked about this in Burnout, but there was a certain time in my life where I took on everything. I was working a full-time 40-hour-a-week job. I was volunteering for 8 hours on Saturday. I was doing most of the cooking. I was doing freelance design work, knitting and weaving and crocheting, on top of also taking a couple of college courses, all at the same time. And pretty much everything in my life suffered from that. So I quite literally got a repeated stress injury in my wrist and a pinched nerve in my shoulder, where I actually had to stop. I couldn't lift anything with that arm without it feeling really bad or feeling really painful for about a week or two. And that's what I'm saying. My personal relationships with my family and friends declined during that time because I didn't have any other time outside of all of those things to hang out, to foster those relationships. So that suffered. And in turn, my mental health suffered because I wasn't taking the time for myself. What I thought was me taking my time for myself was me pushing myself so hard beyond my breaking point and forcing it and trying to force success that I ended up damaging my body and my mind. Now, during quarantine, it's actually been really fascinating because I don't have much else to do except for create and clean. But mentally, I am doing a lot more work than I ever have been before. And spiritually, I've been doing a lot more work than I ever have been before. And I'm learning, okay, where is my breaking point and where is my threshold? And for me, like mental health is the place where I'm realizing that that's where my biggest threshold is at this point, where it's like I've taken on as much emotional baggage that I can this year. Thank you, 2020. And being in Los Angeles right now and California, everything is just kind of crazy and up in the air, and you don't know what's happening. Like, you don't know what's coming or going half the time. So it's that feeling of, I know that if I try to take on much more than what I'm already doing, that I'm going to hit a breaking point. I'm going to end up forcing it, and it's not going to be okay. Actually, here's a great point. Conversely, I did a new episode of D&D But Make It Fashion on Friday the 17th, and at first I was like, really, I didn't want to do the topic that I had chosen, or the monster that I had chosen, and I was just kind of such a stick in the mud about it. But I forced myself to do it anyway, because it was a learning experience. It was not anywhere near my breaking point. It was nowhere near my threshold of having to force it yet. I have had topics where I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to end up forcing this one. But this one I knew was well within my capability, and I knew that by doing it, I'd be able to grow from it. It was just beyond the point of growth for me, but not yet near at the point of breaking point. So I ended up really enjoying the sketch that I created from it. I have lots of ideas of how it's not perfect. I have lots of ideas of how I would fix it and how I would make it better and how I would make it work as more of a proper garment. But I'm happy that I did it anyway, because I did learn a lot and I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of conversation with people in the chat. It was good. It was a good thing. So I was happy to push myself past my growth point, but not so far that I ended up having a no good rotten time, right? So my goal for you guys over the next few weeks is to start learning where your breaking point is. Where is that threshold of you knowing that you're going to have to force it and enable where is your point of not being able to do something or forcing it that you're going to end up hurting yourself, either physically, mentally, spiritually, whatever it is. Start tracking where that is for you, and once you start recognizing it, I think that's when your life is going to start turning around a little bit more. You can say, this is my boundary here, and that's one of them, is learning how to say, this is my boundary. After this point, like, it's my breaking point. I can't do anything beyond that. Allow yourself, and this is all coming together now, allow yourself to put those boundaries in place in order to be a more well-rounded and healthier human being. So let me know what you all think about this topic down in the comments below. I'd love to chat with you about it. I do read my comments all the time. That's one of the only things that I do nowadays, it feels like. So please pop down and let me know what you think about this topic. How is it that you understand not forcing things? Like, what if you are happy to share, please share your own experiences of when you've forced something and it not going well for you. Just let's talk about it in the chat. And also, if you would like to subscribe, if you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching, and give this video a thumbs up so it, can reach more people. I love you all. I hope you have a wonderful couple of weeks. I will definitely try to do another Seeds of Creativity next Saturday. Maybe my original topic for today will be ready to come out of hiding. This one was just getting really noisy in my brain, so I'm glad that I got it out. I think you can probably tell that. So again, I love you all. Stay creative, stay happy, stay safe.